Hey guys, it's Ahmad
And Christina
from Our Rich Journey. One of the questions that we get all the time is how did we become self-made millionaires? And Christina and I were able to do this because we live by a set of rules. And so in today's video, what we want to talk about are 9 rules that we've lived by that have allowed us to become millionaires. And hopefully you can adopt some of these same rules on your journey towards financial independence and retiring early.
So I am really excited to be talking about these rules today in this video because these rules have allowed us to build a multi-million-dollar stock portfolio. It has allowed us to retire early, live here in Portugal, own 2 homes cash. It's allowed us to travel all around the world. And we want to give some insight with you as to how we do it. So we have 9 rules that we stood by and implemented throughout our entire financial independence, retire early journey. So let's start off with the first rule, which is to base your actions on the understanding that time is a limited and precious resource. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Everyone has 24 hours a day. Now, think about how you spend your 24 hours. Are you improving yourself? Are you learning new things? Are you spending time with your friends or your family? Are you doing things that will help you move closer to your goal? The difference between people who understand how precious their time is and people that don't is that the people that do understand how precious time is that they are taking action every single day to move closer to their goals. So let's talk about this rule as it pertains to people pursuing FIRE. Those people understand the commodity of time and how precious it is. So they are doing things like saving more, making more, investing more, so that they can ultimately have enough money so that they can retire early and they can do whatever it is that they want with their time.
Now, keeping this rule central to everything that you do will help you whether or not you are pursuing financial independence or spending quality time with your family. Our next rule is to always get to yes. And what we mean by this is that if you are pursuing financial independence, you will encounter many challenges, especially if you're coming from a place where you maybe are at a disadvantage starting out. You have to find a way to overcome those challenges and gain the advantage. And you do that by always being optimistic and finding a way to get to yes. So in our case, getting to yes meant being able to invest in real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area when we had little to no money. This was something that most folks would just walk away from and see as a complete challenge. But Christina and I, on one salary, were able to invest in real estate in the San Francisco Bay Area because we would not take no as an answer.
Our next rule is to never make excuses. If you fail at something, if something doesn't go as planned, don't make excuses as for why it didn't work out. Always take the opportunity to learn as to why something didn't work out and how you can implement changes within yourself so that you can make things work out in the future. A lot of times we see people placing excuses on external factors. Oh, I couldn't do this because X, Y, and Z. They have nothing to do with me. It's somebody else or something else. But when you take ownership, when something doesn't work out, that allows you to start making changes so that in the future you can learn from why something doesn't work out, but also implement those changes to be successful in the future.
And this has to be one of my biggest pet peeves when people start to make excuses. And have you ever been in a conversation with someone that is making excuses while you're trying to give them feedback so that they can improve in the future? The whole thing goes over their head because they're so busy making excuses. This is such an important part because it has to do with growth and understanding where you failed so that you can improve in the future.
Now, this brings us to our next rule, which is to listen. And we mean actively listen. I feel like there's so much information that you can gain from other people. But if you go into a conversation where it's all about me, let me tell you about me, you don't get any other perspective from other people. You don't get to absorb the information that someone else is sharing with you. Take some time when you talk to people or when you have a conversation with people to really listen to what they have to say.
Oh, and I love this point because so many people are just waiting for their turn to talk when they're in a conversation with someone. I like to have a conversation with someone and listen and just pause for a minute. Let it process. They probably think something is awkwardly wrong with me. I am that deep into what I just heard. But by actively listening, you are not only learning, but you are also showing how much you respect what that person is saying. Which brings us to our next rule, which is take the opportunity to learn from a diverse group of people. Now that is a long rule, but it is something that is very special. You see, Christina and I have traveled the world and have had the opportunity to learn from a diverse group of people. And not everyone has had this same opportunity. But if you have this chance, you can learn so much once you get out of your bubble.
So I think one of the things about millionaires is that they are successful because they are creative. They are finding ways to grow their wealth. They are finding ways to develop products. They are finding ways to make more money. But that can't happen in a bubble. Instead, you want to immerse yourself with diverse people with diverse thoughts and constantly learn.
Our next rule is to always ask the right questions. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term, there's no such thing as a dumb question. Well, this is true to an extent. What we're talking about is when you have the opportunity to get in front of a very important person, you want to ask the right questions. And questions not necessarily that are black and white responses, but questions that can help you understand how that person thinks. For example, if we ever had the opportunity to talk to Warren Buffett, we wouldn't ask him basic questions. We would ask him questions that we could get insightful responses to.
And this goes to the point about learning from other people. We always think it's better to not actually get a yes or no or an exact answer to our question. We're actually more interested a lot of the times in learning about the thought process behind someone's decision. And so when we talk about asking the right questions, we're talking about if you can go today, sit home and Google a question and get that answer, that is not a question that you should be asking anyone for two reasons. First, you're wasting the other person's time. And then second, that information is not actually going to be moving you forward.
Our next rule is to only help others that are interested in helping themselves. And this goes back to many of the other things that we talked about, especially when it comes to spending your time wisely. Now, Christina and I love to help people that want to help themselves. In fact, we get excited about that because we are helping someone else move forward on their goals, and at the same time, we are paying forward what we have learned from someone else.
And you have to go back to that very first rule that we talked about, where you're understanding that time is your most precious resource. If you are using your resource on someone else that isn't even willing to put forth their own resources to move forward, then you should be spending your time on something else. Our next rule is that you constantly have to be looking for growth. And this is across the board for all millionaires. They're always looking for growth opportunities. Now, this can be growth in terms of their portfolios, their different investments that they have, but this can also be internal growth, how to improve yourself, how to improve your relationships.
You see, there is a belief that if you are not growing, you are dying. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but these are rules to live by. Many companies and corporations fail because they failed to evolve. They failed to move forward. Well, the same can be said about individuals. If you have just stopped growing, stopped looking to improve yourself, you are sitting stagnant and will be passed by. Anyone that wants to be successfully financially, that wants to be a millionaire or keep their millions, has to constantly be looking for ways to grow.
And our final rule is that millionaires always operate with a clear vision. They know the types of goals that they want to achieve in the future. But not only that, but they don't allow anything to distract from those goals.
And this is a rule that has served us well. If you have toxic people in your life, you have to get them out of your life because they will distract you and knock you off your journey. And this is something that people really struggle with because these toxic people can be your friends, your family, even your spouse. But you have to find a way in order to overcome these relationships and move forward in a positive way. So those are the 9 rules that have served us well. And so we hope that maybe you're already living by some of these rules, and the ones that you're not, you can adopt them. And so as usual, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.